I'm going to talk about compliments and life and death being in the power of the tongue. You can make someone feel emotionally well, mentally well, and it comes with giving them the approval to thrive in their life. People need to hear the compliments or what you're good at, or not using your insecurities or vulnerabilities. If someone's always pointing out the insecurities or vulnerabilities and never noticing your qualities or strengths, that's someone is not on your fighting side. And this, hence, the verse means, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And also, the tongue is an untamable evil. You can really wound someone, you can cut someone's soul with their tongue. So, when you come to the cross and you start operating in Christ's images, I'm not saying you can't get upset, righteous anger. Remember, the Lord was angry with the wicked every day. Meaning a wicked person was a rebellious person in the eye of the Lord. So it would be hard not to be angered at them. But I think the variable lies in when you're at the cross, you handle it differently. You learn how to walk away or not partake in certain conversations, and you're not argumentative. Um, this is like in the book of Ezekiel. He says, I was made dumb and I couldn't speak, because when you mature, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you start knowing that, wait a minute, this is their fight. This is their war, not mine. So you stop taking the initiative. I mean, you could pray for, like me, I pray for people a lot, all the time, because the irony of the whole thing is they don't realize what they've succumbed to. They don't think they're in darkness, or they always make an excuse or a mandate about, I'm trying, or you don't know what I'm fighting, or you don't know what I'm going through. And I understand that. I have compassion. Sword and a plowshare, amen. So I have compassion for others, but also there's a definitive line, a boundary that has to be met or not crossed. You have to stand. This is your firm foundation of standing for what you believe in and who you are. Because if you don't have those guidelines in place, it says come under the power of no man. When people are rebellious around you, you become under their power, because either they're provoking you emotionally, mentally, or disturbing your peace, or whatever the case may be. Now, there's such thing as blessed are the givers and peacemakers, but also the Lord tells you to come out from among them, be separate. Bad company corrupts good morale. So if you're constantly, this is why I talk about curses, that when you're constantly around people who don't take your peace into the account, then you're inside their storm. You're under their power, because you're always presenting them, well, why are you doing this, or what's going on, or you're always like consumed by the war they're bringing into you. Like they say, only an evil person is happy causing division in someone's life. But when someone's trying to live at peace, you're not happy there. You're not happy in their storms. This is why they always say, be not unequally yoked. What fellowship does Belial darkness have to do with light Christ? If two can't agree, they can't walk together. You're never going to find an agreement if you're trying to live in peace and someone else is in rebellion. This is why this is what they refer to as unequally yoked. So there's a lot of things, and it says your enemies will be of your own house. And I believe this to be true, not because there's hatred involved. I believe it's because you've been set free and they're still in captivity. Bondage, like darkness, whatever that bondage is, whatever that variable of oppression is, because your happiness or truth can irritate their demons or darkness. If they're in emotional or mental despair or rebellion, your light's gonna seem like Cain. If they're following the ways of Cain and destroying themselves, it means envy, jealousy, strife, division. Um, they're just going to be the corrupted mind. They're going to be disappointed at everything. They're going to find anything in error. If that's what they're looking for, they're going to find it in you, in it, in their own lives. That's what they say, the mind of Christ or the mind of Satan. That's what he's referencing to. You know, when people lived in darkness so long, like I think about gossiping with some people, and I'm like, you know, that's part of their identity. They really don't see anything wrong with it, because when I try to talk to them about that, like, don't do that. Don't stop talking about people. I don't like that. You know, and they can't stop. It's controlling their lives. And I think they don't really think anything's wrong. They justify it. Oh, everybody does this. Okay, so I'll make a statement like, okay, you're probably right. A lot of people do it, but it doesn't make it right or healthy. You're signing someone up for a bad. Remember, gossip stops on a wise person's ears. Why would, you know what? At a certain age of maturity, you stop doing those things. You stop talking about he said, she said, they did, knowing that it doesn't, you know, that's what a busybody is. It doesn't concern you. Why does that matter to you? Why are you doing that? And also, you're signing someone up for a battle. Remember, your character is who you are. Your reputation is what people say. So you're putting a bad reputation on somebody, or saying things that you don't even know. You don't even know what happens behind closed doors in someone's life. Why are you doing that to them? Why are you saying those things? You know, and you get tired of fighting those battles for other people, or trying to make people mature. Because I'm like, you know, and as people think, oh, you think you're better than everybody because I walk away from a lot of conversations. I'm quiet. They think I'm isolating or I'm depressed. No, I just can't entertain darkness. There's a time in a point in your life where you have to mature. Physically, spiritually, not a lot of people are at this cross. The cross is where you're healed. That's what the cross does for all. It heals you. And you stop doing this immaturity of level things. Like when you're in school, you know, oh, don't talk to her. We don't like her. She's not part of our group. You don't do that. You know, that's what you do in high school. That's what you do in your immaturities. Flee your youthful lusts. You know, and I see adults sometimes doing this. I'm like, wow. And then they wonder why their marriages fail, their children's futures are in despair, or they're in despair, or they're bringing they operate in their own conflict. They dismantle their own lives. That's like when two people can't get along, they're married, and they'll go talk, you know what she did to me, blah 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 blah, and then the next day they're holding hands with them. So as a mature person, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, they can't make good decisions for themselves, and they're talking about the very people they say they love. You know, that's what I mean. That's what dismantling your own life means. You're operating the spirit of error in yourself. You know, and what are people supposed to think? You're putting the thoughts in those people's minds because of what you're operating. People see what you do. People hear what you say. So the Lord says they have eyes but they cannot see, they have ears but they cannot hear. You don't even understand your own disengagement. And the things that you're saying and doing is what's giving you the false narrative in your life. I'm not hateful to anybody, but you know, and I'm a very loving person. I've said that repetitively in my videos. I love everybody and I want to bring everybody to the cross. I want everybody to be healed, whole, signed, sealed, and delivered. But here's the thing, and I thought of this yesterday when I was riding my bike. Um, I can love people to no end, to the end of the world, but I can't make them receive a message. I can't make them decide to lay things aside and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be better. Or I'm going to start walking. And because life and death is the power of tongue. If you start preaching like me, I started making these videos, whether people hear them or not. It's a personal journal for me. I use it. And I rewatch my videos, not because I'm in love with myself, because I was preaching to myself. I'm like, hey, I got to listen to the words I'm saying. And it started becoming a part of my identity. It renewed me. And I started in the darkness. I started where the Lord will get you where he finds you, and he'll take, and then it's a process. You know, I always tell people, you were born in the dark, you fell away to the dark, uh, you know, but start somewhere. Start now. Start today. Not, you know, why put it off? If you want to start getting better, start now. And you don't fall apart overnight. You're not going to regroup overnight, but don't waste no time doing it. Start redeveloping who you are. And like me, I tell people all the time, I don't use profanity. I don't talk perverse. I don't gossip about people unless it's like a parable like the Lord did. You know what these people did, and this is what happened. You know what? If you do this, this is what's going to happen. You know, if you're using it for a story, not to belittle, there's a difference between conviction and condemnation. Condemnation is where you're putting people down for their despair. Conviction is saying, well, if you keep staying down, you're going to die. That's conviction. Like, wait a minute, you can't do that. Like a loving person would do, they would warn you of something, of your consequence. That's what a parent does. That's what someone who loves you does. They warn you. They don't say, hey, put your hand on the top plate. See, now you got a blister. Don't do that. They don't wait for it to happen. That's not how someone who loves you operates. They protect you from harm's way. If they have tools, wisdom, or skills to show you a better way, they teach you. They show you. They learn you. You know? It's a all learning experience. That's what here's the thing too. A true prophet, if you look at the word prophet, it means a teacher or counsel. So a true teacher or true counsel or true prophetic person is going to do it because they love you, not for any other reason. Because they care about who you are, and that care comes from their loving heart. It's within the spirit of man, the desires of a man's heart. My desire is to love people. Oh, you're naive, you're too kind. I don't know what that means. I don't have the corrupted mind. I don't think anybody can be too kind to anybody. Everybody wants to be treated dignified and respectful. So I don't know what that mind, I don't know what kind of mind that is. I don't operate that way. I'm going to be nice to everybody because that's who I am. And when I go to sleep at night, I want to feel okay with how I treated others. I want to be okay with the persona that I represented and not misrepresent other people. You know, I got to be okay with that. I got to go sleep with my conscience. I have one. My mind is not debased. So that's what they mean by the desires of a man's heart control his thoughts. You know them by their fruit. I don't want to ever operate in a bad seed. So naivety and kindness, no, by far. I've walked through this world. That's what's recovered my life because I know what works and what don't work, what fails and what, the behaviors that need to be modified. I know because I did it myself. I overcame the darkness. I once walked in this course of this world and I've been delivered into this glorious light. So because of all those trivial matters in my life, in the spiritual, emotional, mental oppression and the curses that the Lord showed me when he touched me, is why I no longer do it. Because I know what it feels like to be there. Am I better than anybody? Absolutely not. I'm better than I was. And I am not in competition with anybody in this world. That's an egotistical operation, a competitor's heart, where you operating in arrogancy and ego and pride. And, I don't have that. Humble yourself before the Lord and he will exalt you. If you stay with humility and compassion, you can have meekness and righteous anger. Like John the Baptist and Jesus, they didn't water down the gospel. They had confidence, not ego. They had confidence in their message to save humanity. They had confidence in that, in their message. That's not pride. That's not ego. It's either corruptible mind will be like, oh, you think you're better than everybody. You're not supposed to judge or you're too judgmental. No, there's a righteous judgment so that you don't fall into error or yoke with the wrong people or allow people to dismantle you. All the growth that you've obtained, the firm foundation you stand on. You can't allow people to rip the rug out from underneath you and dismantle you. That's rightly dividing the truth. That's not being mean. It's only mean to somebody who can't dominate or manipulate your life or don't appreciate your identity or your well-being. That's not. It says the truth becomes the hate message. But if anybody hates you for your truth, if two can't agree, they can't walk together. They're not for you. They're not your tribe. And that's not being mean. That's being sound-minded. You have to know who you are and not let anybody dismantle that identity. Then you would walk around in a storm in your own self. You would be like, like if you don't stand up for who you are, there's a storm that goes on inside. Saying, well, wait a minute, I feel this way. Or if you can't communicate with your feelings and say, this is how you made me feel, like they say, if someone's sinning at you, tell them. If you can't communicate how you feel to somebody and be able to express, we have feelings. We're not robotic. We have feelings. And if you can't express those feelings without someone understanding them, and they're not willing to understand or allow you to be who you are, that person does not love you appropriately. That person does not love who you are. Or, someone who loves you is going to compliment your life and say, wait a minute, let's talk about this. I know you have feelings, or at least at the bare minimum, try to figure it out together. Someone who's for you emotionally, mentally will support you and hold your hand through the fires and trials of life. I'm doing fine, but I just think about anti-Semitic. Okay, so I don't know how you can be alleviated from that. Someone said I'm anti-Semitic. meaning would be like in Egypt. Okay, that's what God says to flee Egypt. There's a way that you can redefine your identity. If you, this is what I just said in a video yesterday. I said, when we're born into the Satan is the god of this world. When we're born into this world, we pick up things from our ancestors, ancestral curses. That's where the spirit of religion comes from. Do not worship the gods of your forefathers. So there has to be an undoing, a releasing of a religion or a way of life. You have to kind of undo everything you know. I always tell people, get rid of the religion because it came from Satan, and that's the truth. The Lord showed me that. Because you're not born with it. You're not born with a cultural derivative, like ethnos, the Bible calls it race, creed, culture, and religion. This is, religion divides and conquers humanity. So I think you can alleviate at least the bare minimum of the hatred out of your heart, and have the love of Christ in your heart. No matter, and the labels that society gives you, like, is what bears the bondage on some people. You can hold on to that label and it consume your life. If you can be a loving person and just pretend that doesn't exist, release yourself from that label. I mean, I don't know what you're holding on to with that, because society gives labels, and the Lord showed me He doesn't do labels. Labels, this society is so, they'll tell you not to judge, but they're most judgmental. They put these labels, they put you in statistical boxes that people don't fit into. Like I tell you about the 12 tribes, there'll be 12, the 144,000. From each tribe, 12,000 will be saved. You can decide to release yourself from that label. You can decide to change who you are and put that down and quit bearing that statistical or that stigmata or that whatever you're on, because I don't have hatred in my heart. I know what the Lord showed me about, and it's all in the Bible too. There's nothing new under the sun. Like in the Septuagint, it talks about this. The Old Testament, it talks about like the tribe of Ishkar, Levi, Dan, and whatever all those tribes are. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, but I'm just saying there will be 12,000 from each tribe that decides to come to the cross and learn how to be a loving person and put all those labels aside and religious oppression. That's what it is. The Lord had showed me that all religion came from the kingdom of darkness, and what that means is you learn them in a fallen world. You're not born with that. And here's how I want to show you in that variable how it holds true. If I was to adopt a child from another country with another cultural narrative, they wouldn't know any of that stuff. They would know what I showed them. So they're not under that variable, or they're not under that label, or they're not under that narrative, So they would know what I taught them, and it would be love. I would teach my children love. Not I'm this or I'm that. You're a child of God. You're a child of the Most High God. That's what you are. We're created all in Christ's image. Everything else is what we fall away to. That's what we do. We fall away. Our mind is a powerful thing. Remember, Satan's target is your mind. And the blind can lead the blind, and the deceived can deceive others. You have to lay things down in your life. Deny, self-denial. Who you are or who you think you are, and operate in the spirit of love. The Lord told me there's a spirit of religion in this world. It's not from Him, and the attributes are many variables, denominations, cultural. These are called ancestral curses. Worshiping the gods of your forefathers. You learn them from the Lord. Had shown me all. Like I said, we learn these things from our elders. And where you see this, a lot of people too, if they sway away from it from their elders, there's a familial hatred that happens. Oh, if you go practice that, you can't marry into our family, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, I thought you loved like Christ. You're professing to know Christ, but you're not acting like Him. You're saying that this religious bondage you're holding on to is more important than love. Is that what There's just things I think about. The Lord had showed me, but I don't have the variable to hate others. for a wonderful spiritual breakfast. You're welcome. You know, I want to love people where they're at, but I also want people to learn how to be a loving individual too. And sometimes we have to lay things down that exist in our life to walk in those fruits. We have to decide, we have to make a decision. Have a blessed day.